Well, hello, hello again. Short talk in the park with an old guy, you know who. And welcome to you all, YouTubers and tuberettes alike, and all you others. And it doesn't even matter whether you got gray hair or no hair at all. Brown and blue and every other color is just fine as long as it doesn't mind living on top of your head, not mine. I remember a young guy years ago, I'm changing the topic a little. In fact, it turned out, anyway, I'm not going to talk about him because we all know who he is. Uh, and I don't want to tarnish his reputation, but when he was like 19, he was kind of a nut, and this is like 20 years ago almost. And he cut his hair as a crew cut, and not a crew cut, a flat top haircut, and then he dyed it like bold blue, blue. And I thought, why? So there's, I guess, kind of fashion trends that come and go. I mean, I don't remember the last time I saw somebody with blue hair. Now, some of these young girls, by the way, they wear this shade they think called red, and it's like, wait a minute, I like if you see a young lady or a young man who's still got, before the gray sets in, have their natural red hair, that's nice to look at. I like red hair. And, lots of times them folks have freckles. When I was a kid, I had a whole bunch of them, freckles, I mean. And I used to think maybe I could get them all to kind of join together in a kind of a communal effort and just become a tan, become a little browner, just because all the freckles blended together. Yeah, I was kind of fixated on that when I was about 7 or 8. It's got to get, hey, let's see what we can do about this freckle situation. And really, none of my efforts amounted to much that I recall. It's been a Friday all day, and it's I guess it's after 6 by now, and I haven't eaten dinner yet. And I'm just kind of still tossing it up in my mind. I ate quite a bit today, which is unusual for me, and I mean, I enjoy eating food. It's not like I'm opposed to food or something. It's just I'm just hardly ever hungry anymore. It's weird. Sometimes I'll realize it's been 2 or 3 nights since I ate dinner. How are you skipping dinner when that's the only meal of the day? And just not hungry. And so anyway, there's this kind of voodoo operation that people try to perform on your mind. I remember my sister tried to pull this one on me, and you've probably heard it before. Kind of sounds like, well, breakfast is the most important part of the day, and then if you don't eat breakfast, you're really just entirely messing your body up for energy. It's like, truth is, I don't even know how long. Let's say you do eat a big breakfast, bacon, ham, eggs, whatever you like for breakfast, and it goes down there, plop, plop. When can you actually derive energy out of that, say for muscular motion or, get a heartbeat going? When do you actually convert that chow into energy? And it ain't in the next 5 minutes, unless it's maybe just pure sugar. But anyway, it's been that kind of a day where we went out and did a little bit of plumbing, and there was a place called Good Samaritan, and we've been in this building E quite a few times already. They've got some issues with the old iron pipes up there, cast iron, I mean. And by the way, I don't want to, go off on some kind of crazy tangent just now, but if you're a place in your dwelling and you have iron pipes, just knock it off with that liquid drain stuff that you pour it a little bit all the time, or every so often. Don't go there. And it's bad for the pipes. And what it does, now this is probably more information than you required, but I'm just going to talk about this for a little while. This is what old guys do after all. Horizontal run on iron, well, if you start dropping acid in there, it sounds kind of like vaguely the 1960s. If you start dropping acid in there, and what happens is it cruises around in a horizontal run. Well, yes, it'll cut right through that food and junk and whatever's blocking it up, and it begins to etch a slot right across the bottom of the pipe, and so that here's this guck and guck on the inside of the pipe, the sewer buildup, you might call it. Well, it eats through that sewer buildup and goes right down to the iron. And guess what? Well, you're laying on your side down there underneath trying to work on a horizontal piece of pipe. And you got your mini grinder out, and you've done this crazy cut, and you finally get her out, get a nice square cut. Except, look, that crack is still there. That's what we were trying to remove. you're trying to cut behind the crack. Well, guess what? The crack runs with the pipe. What? Right across the bottom of the pipe, the belly right here down at the bottom. That's where the crack runs, and it runs right on through. How did that happen? Acid coming down the drain cuts a runnel, and that runnel is what? At the lowest part of the pipe, and it's right above the, and it's just, it etches its way and begins to attack the iron itself. Tell you, it ain't worth it. But anyway, we were working on a shower drain that was leaking badly. And just so happened the way the apartments are set up in this place is a 3-story building, kind of like an apartment complex, but it's for old people. And I guess some of them have care and stuff. You know, you see a lot of them in wheelchairs and stuff. And so we've been in and out of this place now off quite a few times already. And I've only been with Kev for about 4 months. And we were working on that rascal, and, you know, I came up with a new idea today. I kind of wanted to braggadocio this, kind of like, you know, toot my own whistle. Ooh, boy, I ain't that smart. I tell people on the job, you know, I'm so smart. I'm incredibly smart. I'm so bright, my mom calls me son. I heard that on a George of a Jungle cartoon when I was about 8, and I thought it was brilliant. So I stole it. Cannot quit fooling with the camera. But anyhow, I came up with an idea today on... You're probably just going to think, why would he be talking about this? If you can imagine the world's largest socket for, like, you know, a 6-sided nut. You know, you got one up to 1 1/4, 1 3/8, or, you know, you got a big one up to, you know, 2 inches, a great big socket. Boom, boom. But well, I needed one about like that. And we were working on a shower drain upstairs upside down, so I've never done this before. It'd be a little bit like if you have a crawl space under a house and you have a problem on the shower. Well, yes, definitely you would work on it from below where it's accessible. But how often do I do that? Almost never. I mean, in terms of the way that my life runs as a plumber. And so we got into this rascal today, and I found a way. I took a 3-inch PVC coupling, and I kind of just sized it up with my eyeball at the warehouse. It's kind of like, yeah, that'll do. And as I was driving along, I was plotting in my mind, I know what I'm going to do with this coupling. So you lay it down on top of the nut as you're looking straight down, start drawing little lines down there. So if you can imagine cutting a ziggity-zaggity, kind of like, you know, how old castles look like this. They got this square thing that rises up, then it goes down, then there's a square thing at the bottom. So it looks like a zig-zaggity, up and down around old castles. Well, I don't think I've ever actually even seen that, except maybe in a cartoon or something. But I guess maybe medieval castles supposedly have these rocks sticking up like that. And whatever that would have worked out to, I took the coupling and I cut the ziggity-zaggity thing around it with my mini grinder, and I was able to finally pop that thing right on that nut and just push it on. It was like, it holds. So think of it as a big wrench, because I'm trying to turn this flat nut, but I can't reach it because it's too high. It's above where I can reach. And meanwhile, Marty's on top, and as I'm spinning that nut tight, he's trying to restrain the whole drain so the whole drain doesn't spin, because he just bedded it in a couple of seconds ago with fresh silicone. So anyway, we finally wrestled that stinker together, and it took me about 4 or 5 tries, but I was able to finally set my big socket right up on that rascal, pop, get it in place, and then I have I call them knuckle busters, you call them pump pliers or channel locks. I guess most people call them channel locks, but that's not actually, you know, officially legal. Channel locks is a brand name like Kleenex, and it's funny because Kleenex has the same problem. Kleenex is not just a nose wipe. Kleenex is a brand name, and that's a different thing. And so you can't call your little nose wipe a Kleenex. I'm sorry, because it ain't a Kleenex. It comes from other paper companies. And this is what plumbing ultimately leads to. We start talking about toilet paper and its natural problems. So we had a pretty good episode where we finally got that rascal, put her together, and then we built a new trap. pew, and stuck it together, and the water test went beautifully well. So anyway, we made a complete mess downstairs. That was really a gnarly job. It took us almost an hour to clean the place up, and it was just a little bathroom we were in. But we got it pretty good. It looks all right now. And so when you're doing plumbing and stuff, I was thinking to myself as I was driving along, and I kept thinking, the drain I want is the old style shower drain. Guess it's pretty old after that. I I didn't know that. I went down to 3 plumbing warehouses. I used to be able to find these things. When was that, Mike, exactly? Was it 23 years ago? I mean, it was sometime in the past. I know this. I do recall that part. There was these drains, and it was real simple. You just drop it in the top, spin up the nut, get her nice and tight, and get her done. And that was it. Then the next thing, you glued the pipe in the bottom of that drain. The modern ones, on the other hand, if you set the drain, you can do it right now. But what you want to do is you want to push your pipe up in there, and then you seal it from the top with this rubber gasket gizmo, which is a good seal ordinarily. I mean, I've never had any real problems with them things, but I just don't trust it. Why couldn't we just do it with the glue joints? Anyway, the moral of the story is you can't do it with the glue joint because you can't find the drain. Did they go extinct? I mean, I think this is a national outrage. I probably could have found one if I'd gone down to Home Depot, but I try to ward that place off, sprinkle it with a little holy water, just stay away. I mean, Home Depot and Lowe's, they're all the same. Hey, by the way, these guys quit sending me money even before they started. That's weird. But it's pretty good beer. And so we were working on that rascal, and then we went over and did a backfill on this little remodel deal that we had worked on earlier in the week, Marty and me, I mean. And kind of, shovel for about 40 minutes at the end of the day, just cover up a little roughing and clean it up and get go. Done. So it was a good day after all, and I finally got all the parts together for the hardware stuff for that crazy little, not really a remodel job. I'm just helping a friend out to make his circulating system work better because he doesn't have one currently. So it involves the health inspector and a lot of other stuff. We don't need to get into that. But it's going to be a good job. I hope I'm down there about no more than 6 or 8 hours tomorrow. And by the way, I wanted to talk briefly today. I kind of wish maybe I should talk to somebody under 25 and have them show me how to do this. There was a video, and now I've noticed my memory is, shall we say, shabby at best. So I knew I wasn't going to remember this. So I said, we'll write it down. See, so I'm old school. This is how you remember things. You write it down. And I was watching a video today, and I'd highly recommend it to you. If you like what I have to say at all, I mean, if you've watched more than one of my videos and not had to go like puke in your sock. This guy is making me mentally ill. If that has not been the reaction. Well, if I like Greg Braden and you like Greg Braden, that could be a good single. But in other words, I like him, and so if you like me, here's a recommendation, friend. Greg Braden's got a lot of real interesting stuff out there. He's kind of a little bit on the new agey side, a little bit. I don't believe he's a practicing Christian at all. He does say some things that are definitely okay with me as a Christian, but then he does get a little weird here and there. But overall, he's very well spoken. He's obviously intelligent. He's lucid, and that's a big difference when you're involved in watching a conversation and the person speaking is apparently not lucid, like say Nancy Pelosi or Joe Biden, when he just starts rambling on and on like some lunatic would, or a senile person, right? But at any rate, technically all of that, none of that stuff exists. It's like that stuff they don't dump in the air. Did you see him going by? Yeah, and the jet contrail right beside it disappears in a quarter mile, but this one goes from horizon to horizon and hangs there for 4 hours. Well, that didn't happen. It's just a natural cloud, that's all. You're not seeing it, you didn't see nothing. Close your eyes. And so we're just surrounded with crazy stuff. But anyway, Greg doesn't go into, he's not talking about that stuff with the chemtrails, so don't go wrong there. It's a good interview, and I wrote it down, so it looks like this. Try writing into the search. Gregg Braden, The Ancient Battle Through Modern Technology. So he's talking about an ancient battle, and it's interesting because I don't believe either one of these guys are Christian, and yet they're talking about a malevolent race who is involved in actively destroying the human habitat as best as we know it, and involved in a sort of global suicide pact for humanity. And this is called progress, you see. Well, these evil entities that are guiding this effort, how does Braden describe them? Well, I would describe them real plain. They're demons. Read it in the Bible. They didn't go away just because the end of the book came up. When you read the end of the book of Revelation, it doesn't say anything about, and by the way, after 70 AD, there will never be demons again. That's not in the Bible. You're not going to find that in there. So it's demonic. Well, anyway, so I'm listening from that ear right there. That's the way I'm hearing this. And yet that's not what they're saying. And it's like, so where are they coming from? And yet, so I'm just excited, and I'm glad to hear that folks who aren't even Christian, people who make no profession of Jesus, even they see that there is an evil force, we'll call it spirits, entities, wicked entities that have been essentially released, and people are involved in actually currently summoning them up through whether it's occultic ceremonies or not, or probably involving blood sacrifice. I don't want to know. But there are heavyweights in the occult and in magic who are actually summoning spirits. Well, guess what? The spirits are awfully glad to be summoned and be let out of there. Well, the gates have been breached. If I'm the guy walking the wall, hey, watcher, what do you see? Well, here's what I see. The walls have been breached. The enemy has come through. The town has been overrun. Everyone to arms. Grab your sword. It's time to fight. And that's precisely what's missing, I think. And this is part of what they were talking about. So I'm stealing their thunder. So don't let me plagiarize too much, please. But anyway, it was an excellent video and a good conversation. And I do appreciate both guys' sides. But when Gregg Braden gets talking stuff, he's just a really interesting chap to listen to. He's, I don't know how bright he is on an IQ scale, but I think he could light up the room. And when Christian folk hear this, you don't have to be threatened. You don't have to be, oh, well, that's not quite in line with the doctrinal stance that I've affirmed here. You can listen to other voices. You can listen to other views, even left-wing views, even woke views, and see if there's a way that you can balance and understand what there's actually being said. Because words have two meanings, and oftentimes there's meanings beyond meanings. And so we're surrounded in lies. We're surrounded by frauds and cowards and murderers. So what's called for in the church, what's called for in you and me, is courage and integrity and seeing the job through. So buck up. The world's actually dependent on you. How does she depend on you? Somebody's got to do the job. Somebody's got to make this happen. And that's where you come in. We've got to do some heavy lifting. Heavy lifting is coming up. Things are going to get real weird. But I'm not a prophet, and I don't want to be a prophet of doom neither. But I just want to say, look, if bad times really are coming, wouldn't it be nice to know? Wouldn't it be nice to emotionally prepare that basically I might be looking at the end of what I call my life? And whether that's a physical death or not, it's the end of my job. It's the end of this place I live in. It's the end of the daily routine. It's the end of being a vehicle owner or having a good name in the community, whatever. The idea of camps being set aside for the undesirables, the deplorables as they were, and this whole idea of this grand right-wing conspiracy to import blah, blah, blah in the world, and yet it's coming exactly from the people who are accusing. If you want to know what the Democrats are really all about, just go find out what they're accusing the Republicans of doing, especially if it involves criminal intent. Kind of read it backwards like a mirror over your shoulder. And Anyway, I just wanted to say it's a good plumbing day, and so I kind of feel like, well, got a little bit accomplished at least. I wasn't just spinning in circles again. And I wanted to comment on the video. Go and watch it if it if you like a good healthy conversation. These chaps are worth listening to. And again, maybe if you're 30 or under, you could tell me how to do that link thing. So all you do is like click, click, and you're already there. But and all that HTTP stuff with the colon and all that, no, I ain't doing that. So have a good evening and have a good day tomorrow. I might make a vid in the morning and I might not because I'm going to go on down and do that job. And I'm guessing it's going to be between 6 and 10 hours. And I'm working by myself. So, I'm not going to be pushing and hustling and bustling, but, keep plugging at it. And it's not a big job. It's not complicated. It's just sort of like, oh my gosh, now I got to stumble all over this furniture and figure a way to wiggle down in there so I can put a zip tie on it. What's all this garbage doing up here? Anyway, it's kind of a loft area, and they use it as a storage area, which is natural enough. But it's like, what's all this crap being stored? I got to do work around here, man. And so I might do some furniture moving tomorrow. We'll see about that. But whether I'm furniture moving or plumbing or philosophizing or just shooting the breeze, I just want to let you know, when Jesus comes in us, he changes us. And I've been saying this to myself lately, and this is the preacher part. So if you don't like that, turn it off. But the idea I was thinking of the other days is that, we all talking about freedom and human integrity and freedom. And, they're taking away my liberties and boom, 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 and liberty and freedom. Well, guess what? Well, those ideas came from God. Now, maybe they were correctly interpreted. Maybe they weren't by humans. But never mind that. However freedom works, it ain't what we're talking about in this world. And so you can look for freedom. You can strive for it. But I tell you what, you'll never be free until you're holy. And that sounds scary. That sounds weird. Because the problem is we don't know what the word holy even really means. And we use it all the time. And so you end up with a lot of weird stuff. And in terms of if you want freedom, then you have to have freedom on the inside. And that's where it starts. And then from there it works out and communicates to others. And you begin to be a freeing kind of person to others around you. And someone who lifts burdens, someone who is part of the solution, not part of the problem. And so everybody wants to be, I think, oh, here we go with that camera again. My gosh, this thing makes me ill. No, I'm sorry I started that way. Sorry, doctor. I was ill when I was born. Do. Leave it. Oh, I can't resist. It's like, who cares about that? Leave it alone, man. But I just wanted to say, in terms of our gospel message, what is the good news, man? I mean, you keep you burning a hole in my ear about you keep saying gospel. What is the news which is so very good? Well, in a way, it's Jesus in you, you in him. This idea of with Christ, this idea of in Christ, this idea of being in communion or one with him, united in a cohesive, organic, living union. The good news is about he entered our world because, yes, the Father sent him, but he also came of his own volition. He entered voluntarily into our world. The Most High God, who is also called the Son, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. He's also called the Word of God himself, the Logos in John. He entered our world. And this changes everything. I say the kingdom is coming. Well, so what? The kingdom has already come. It's arrived. And it's among us, and it's amid us, and it's growing. And people just like you are praying, and the world is changing. Souls are hearing for the first time and coming to Christ. Eyes are being opened today around the world. Evangelism works. It's the most powerful thing in the world. But the thing is that we got to remember we were sent with a message called the news. And the news is this: he's in you. He's with you. And so if you want to know what the good news is, I have to say, well, frankly, if it ain't about Jesus, If it ain't about the Calvary episode and that empty tomb episode later and the ascension off the hill and the promise of his return, if it ain't about him and if it ain't about his work that he done, I mean, the incarnation and then the whole exchange at the cross and the resurrection, and he's so glorious. If it ain't about him, then I don't want to know what the news is. So, in other words, the news is he's in us. I mean, right now, in our lifetimes in 2024, in 2024, today he's walking with you. Today he's building you. Today he's causing you to root down anew, based on truth, based on his integrity, and the fact that he cannot be defeated. And that means his love never ends. It's forever. His love is, and his compassion endure forever. And that's just for starters. This guy, he rocks. He's the best. And so our testimony is about him. Our testimony isn't about how I straighten up and fly right. I mean, testimony is not about how doctrinally square I really am, and don't you wish you were as smart as I was. No, our testimony is he came into my life. He changed me. I tell you, I died. Something happened. He stepped in. Paul says, it is no longer I who live, but it's Christ who lives in me. Now I think somewhat I'm beginning to understand that. When I was younger, it didn't make any sense at all. But without the Spirit and without the fruit of the Spirit in us, we have no understanding of really anything. He's the one who grants understanding. And when we kind of have that great moment of, aha, I understand, aha, the aha moment, we got to remember there's a relationship that he is it's like he's the surprise himself. He's at the center of our desire. He's the one we wanted, although we didn't know it and couldn't say so, because to do that would have meant admitting my guilt, and I couldn't do that. Because I thought if my guilt was known, then there would be no hope for me because of judgment. So I was just hoping my guilt wouldn't come up as an issue, much less the shame involved. Shame is a powerful motivator, friend. And if you're involved in activities and things that cause you to be ashamed, use that as a warning. Use that as a way to remember. There's something about here that needs to be studied more. Even I'm not right with it. So listen to your own heart too, as it testifies and conscience is taught according to law, according to righteous truth as the Bible teaches it. And so he changes our consciences, he renews our minds, he strengthens our spirit, he raises our soul up into kind of a vital, lively, glad, entertaining human being with warm hands and a real heart. He's making us more like him. He's the true human. So go listen to Greg and the other guy. I'm sorry, I wish I could remember. But anyway, it's a conversation, two people talking. So it's not just like kind of blah, 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 like some people do. But it's a conversation. So I just want to recommend the vid. I want to say hello, and I'm so glad that I've got a viewer or two. But gosh, you're so welcome here. And come on in, and we'll do this again. Have a good night.